Hello guys, I want to just talk to you a little bit about illuminated letters. In the Middle Ages, way before the printing press, all books were written by hand, letter by letter. And the theme was usually religious, and monks and nuns were the ones to do this. Now, as there were some wealthy people who began to want these books. And so a workshop was set up, and the craftsmen of these books would design these letters with images going in and around the letter. We can even find them in modern day books, Little Red Riding Hood, Shrek. And then people also sometimes will just do them as like a nice decoration for their name. And they also put some images around, sometimes starting with, the letter. So we've got one here. A student did this one. So we're going to start. This is one that I've done. And you'll notice that I've got something in each of my corners. I've got my letter in the center. And yes, it begins with J. And 3 images. Okay, so you are going to need a piece of paper, a ruler, pencil, and probably some colored pencils. You could even try some watercolor inside of your letter as well. But let's take a look. So line up your ruler along the edge and just trace it. Trace the top of it. Move it to the side, and you're going to trace down. Okay, so again, lining it up in the corner and just tracing. Okay, it's going to give you a nice little square in each of your corners, and that's where you're going to put an image that starts with the letter of your first name. Now, some people also do the first letter of their last name. I guess that's an option as well. If you don't want to do your first letter, you can certainly try that. So last line here, again, just tracing along the edge of the ruler, and then you have a nice border around it, and you got your 4 corners. Okay, next step, let's get our letter drawn. So J is my letter. So I'm going to just start, I'm going to leave some space up at the top, and I'm usually going to draw lightly. I always have to press just a bit harder so that you guys can see, but I'm more comfortable drawing really, really light. Now, this letter that we're going to draw is going to be the skeleton letter. It's going to be the inside, the bones of the letter, okay? So leave yourself some room at the top, leave yourself some room at the bottom. And I feel like I just went a little bit too long there, so let me just bring it up a little bit. That's another really, really good reason to draw lightly, so that if you make a mistake, you can easily get rid of it. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to get fancy here. Now, you don't have to. If you want to just keep your letter the way that it is, go for it. It does make it a little more tricky the more detail you add. I'm going to add a little bit of a curly Q coming down and a curly Q going up. Okay. All right. Now we're going to put the skin on the letter, around the letter, I should say. So don't touch the letter. All right. So figure out where you want to start. And I'm going to start up near the top here. And I'm going to go down to start with. So you can use a light line. If you used a light line to create your letter, you can use a bit of a darker line. Now, when you're tracing around your letter, try not to get this letter too skinny. So I'm probably doing about maybe 2 fingers away from the bones of my letter. Okay, now this part gets a little bit tricky. So I kind of trace up and around and then back out again and around that, just so that that letter is encased inside. There we go, and up along the other side. Okay, so what I have to do is just the top part, and again, you're not touching the bones of that letter. Just tracing around it. So you can see that it does get a little bit harder the more you add. The smaller things are, it's also a little bit harder. When you're done, you're just going to erase out that skeleton. Okay, and then you should be able to see that shape that you drew of your letter pretty easily. Now, if there are any mistakes that you made or you want to fix anything, now's the time. You just go back in. So I kind of think I could just readjust that and just fix it. Okay. All right. Now from here, just going to darken it up a little bit. Now when you get out color pencils, you can throw an outline around this with like a Sharpie marker. I love doing that. I love outlining. Okay, but I'm going to start in my corners. It's up to you, and then the spaces going kind of like around it. Okay, so here's what I did. So here's my J, and in each corner I have jellyfish, since they start with a J, and my three things, my jaguar, since we go to LVA, and a jogger. I just finished a 13.1 mile half marathon race, and a jump rope, since I like to work out. Okay. All right. And then my J. Now you can, again, you're going to color this any way that you want. You can outline with the Sharpie and then maybe do like watercolor inside of your letter, or just color pencil, whatever you feel like doing. So let's take a look at an example. The letter V that we had. And I want you to notice that everything that this student did